But we saw.
The campus of when I was there for the 6 months I was there at George Washington University. I just metroed everywhere and I never missed a car once.
That I just let in the meeting, I wanted to let you know that we're having a board committee meeting, and as soon as that's finished, the regular meeting will start.
And the big one.
Good evening, everyone. We're going to get started in just a few minutes. We're waiting for a subcommittee to get out. So once that occurs, we'll start the meeting. So all for attending and being prompt, and we'll get started in just a few minutes. Good evening, everyone. I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order at 7:06. Welcome, everyone. I can't believe it's already September here and school's back in full swing. I hope everyone had a great Labor Day weekend. We'll start with agenda item 1.0, the roll call and pledge. Ms. Brault, will you call the roll, please?
All right, Rita Davis. Here. David Down expected.
No,
Sean is not expected.
correct.
Gary Lang. Present. Fisher.
Here,
Lucille's not expected.
no.
All right, and I am here. We have quorum.
We have a quorum. Great. Everyone could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So under 2.0, we have the superintendent's report, and I know Dr. Schwartz, you wanted to get an update on last Thursday's football game, that situation. So we'll go ahead and start there and take it away.
Did we want to add that as an agenda change, or?
We can,
just
yeah.
Put that in the beginning of school debrief,
However,
because if we're going to add it as a agenda item, we have to do an agenda change by vote.
Seems like a beginning of school day.
yeah, okay. I'll just.
School
that's
update?
fine.
Topic.
Yeah, all game, go ahead.
Beginning of school.
So, all right, so beginning of school debrief is under 2.1, and I'll include that conversation within that heading. So from the beginning of school, we've got, actually, it's been aside from Friday night's situation, it's been a positive start to the school year, frankly. We've been getting a lot of positives from across the community in regards to just the normalized start of the year. We really haven't had a normalized start since the fall of 19. With the pandemic and the last couple of years, it's been, certainly the year has been compromised. This year, a much more positive feel in the air. We've had packed curriculum nights, which we've not had in the last couple of years. So very well attended. I know we have some elementary curriculum nights going on this week. But the secondary curriculum nights last week, full houses, which was, again, refreshing to see. It's been a couple of years. So as far as transportation goes, that has been fairly smooth. I mean, there's always that first week of school, starting with transportation, with, routes, timing and schedules and, we had a few hiccups, but all in all, the transportation has gone quite well. The parking lots have been, better. We didn't have the delays that we've seen in years past of folks, getting into parking lots and dropping off and picking up. We've been able to expedite that and get that through. Again, we've got more and more drivers that are driving students. The square footage of our parking lots, when the schools were designed, were not designed for the volume of traffic that we're seeing in our parking lots these days. Kudos to our principals who have worked to find ways of bringing efficiencies to the drop off and pickups as much as possible using the footage they have to work with in their parking lots. So, the first couple of days in a few, particularly the elementaries, were slow. That has picked up certainly as time has gone on and routines have gotten developed and people can identify with better where to drop off, where to pick up and all of that. So those efficiencies have certainly improved over the last couple of weeks. So we're happy there. As far as, some items that have been challenges for us. Starting off, and I'll start with, the high school in particular. We did have, students last week with a sit-in in regards to the dress code with crop tops. We had about 30 girls or so that had some issue with the ability to wear crop tops and the shortness of those crop tops and all of that. So that is, that discussion went very well with the groups of girls. They were broken off into groups of 5 and 6 and had individual meetings with counselors and Mr. O'Shaughnessy and administration. And those are ongoing conversations that are had to inform the dress code at the high school, better define and to better spread the understanding of what the dress code includes and doesn't include. So we're actually happy that, you know, that is essentially evolving into work groups that are working to assist in that manner. We also have been responding to certainly the bathroom concerns at the high school where we've had to close some bathrooms because of vaping, because of vandalism. It's not near as bad as last year with all the TikTok challenges that were happening last year to destroy your school's bathroom. We're not dealing with that this year, but we, you know, again, the vaping is a problem with our youth. So we have certainly listened to the constituency in regards to bathroom access. Because, you know, it's a challenge between protecting the environment, protecting people, and respecting access and privacy. So, you know, that's been a balancing act as we've started school. I will tell you that all bathrooms are open, and we've redistributed the supervision. We are not forbidding students from taking in purses and bags, and so we're using bathrooms as normal. And yet we have redistributed the supervision and we're going from there. So are we going to catch every vapor? Nope. But certainly, you know, parents and students, you know, vaping is an issue and it's something that should be a home conversation. It is, I mean, the research is just becoming voluminous in terms of how damaging vaping is to one's health, to the lungs, and it's nothing to take lightly. And we see more and more of that becoming an epidemic with our youth, and it's scary. You know, our kids think they're invincible until they're not. And so parents and students really should have discussions about vaping and the harmful effects of that, because it will catch up to you. So enough said on that. The other issue is the football incident. We had several communications, or a couple of communications that went out in regards to the incident. We know that the individual who had brought the weapon is in custody, being currently held at Children's Village, and is there's plans for that arraignment of that individual on several charges. So we know that there will be some steep consequences for that individual. From a timeline perspective of the incident, and thankfully, again, with our protocols, again, all eyes and ears and cameras are out in these events. And in this situation, thank goodness for the officer who was watching the individual, seeing the individual plant the fanny pack behind the maintenance building outside the stadium. When that student identified with the fact that we were checking bags, we were not allowing bags in, not allowing fanny packs in, seeing that we had officers in place. And so the person attempted to not take that item into the stadium, but rather try to hide it. So, and then the eyes were on that individual and confirmed that there was an issue when they checked that bag.
And this wasn't an Avondale.
Was not an Avondale student.
Or a Holly student.
Or a Holly student. Holly was the opponent that we were playing in football. So this is an individual that came in a Uber van, dropped off with a couple of his buddies. When he was asked why he was there, his answer was, well, he was there to pick up girls. Which we all suspect that not being the case, because why would you bring a gun to come pick up girls? But nonetheless, that's his story. But the last that I heard, that's his story. So, when we look at the incident, and it was shortly thereafter when the students had entered the stadium, after the planting of the fanny pack. The students were brought out of the stands where they were sitting and into the cafeteria of the high school where they were questioned. And they were in there for several hours being questioned. And at the time that the individuals went in, the threat had been neutralized. Is what we had thought at that point in time, which is why the games continued to go. Messaging that the threat was neutralized. So, all right, we'll continue on. Yeah, it wasn't until a couple of minutes before the end of the game that, after the police had gone through and analyzed all the surveillance video, that there was still this suspect that was at large. So once we had learned that is when we said, well, if that's the case, then we're not going forward with the dance. As unpopular as that was, we thought if this individual is still out there somewhere, that we weren't going to continue on with the dance. So that is when the memo went out about the cancellation of the dance. We wanted, at point in time, to give people the right information, to be transparent as to why we were canceling the dance, because if that didn't go out in that timely of a manner, everybody would fill in the blanks with their own information as to why the dance was canceled. So we were very adamant about messaging going out, even though we may not have complete messaging, we may not have all the details, because we know as investigations go, information can change as more details are found out and so on, as was in this case. But at that point in time, with the details that we knew, we put out information to substantiate why we were canceling the dance. And then as we received further information into the next day about them apprehending the individual and proceeding with placement in Children's Village and so on, we got out an amended communication to that effect so that we could put people's mind at ease that, yep, the situation has reached a resolution from that perspective. So, I'm thankful that we had the eyes and ears and cameras that we have, and that all of us take our roles in those situations very seriously. You think about what could have been, and it's a scary thought in terms of what could have been. No one really knows except the individual what the real motive was. And I'm sure it was not that he was just there to pick up girls. We still don't know whether he was really targeting an individual or what. We haven't received any further information in that regard. We are looking at our protocols moving forward in terms of tightening up for our sporting events, looking at having our Avondale families and students and our visitors, whoever we're playing, families and students admitted with their student ID, any other community adults and so on, but students from other schools will not be allowed in. We've had situations in the past of students from other schools, other districts that have come here and have created some disturbances with being rowdy, fights, things like that. And so this was just sort of the icing on the cake in terms of that. So, so that's what we're looking at in moving forward. And again, we'll have some greater definition to that as we go. We're meeting with the high school administration, we're meeting with law enforcement and so on in terms of coming up with what those protocols will be moving forward. But we are looking for some revision there. I mean, you always have to look at your protocols, even when they work. And in this case, they worked, but there's still tweaking that can go. I mean, you always have to reflect, you always have to revise. You always can do better. So, and that is certainly the approach and the philosophy that we're taking with this situation. So, questions, comments, suggestions?
I just want to say that several families that I had conversations with after the football game were their children were completely unaware of what happened. And so I just want to say that in spite of all of the circumstances and the layers, it was handled very, very well because there were children there who had no idea what was even happening. So there wasn't chaos, there wasn't a lot of movement. It was handled very professionally to be in the middle of a high school football game. So thank you to everyone who was involved.
Yeah, the Auburn Hills Police were phenomenal. Our safe ed staff, our high school administration. I mean, everybody was working feverishly behind the scenes and everywhere around that stadium. I mean, I know I was there. So, I was part of that action. So, I saw what was happening and what was going on and who was where. And there was a lot being done to protect that.
Parents were more flustered. How come my kid called and said the dance was canceled, not realizing all of what had happened in the background until the email started to go out. And so then it was,
Right.
but yeah, it was more so like, what's happening? Why was the dance canceled? Like, so it was handled very well. The
Which
kids
is why we wanted to get a single point of message,
out, yes.
so that there wasn't people filling in, well, I heard it was this, well, I heard it was that. And then, things that are the furthest from the truth are what gets believed. So, we were pretty adamant about getting it out at that point in time.
And then I think our internal communication, I was in constant contact with Dr. Schwartz and getting messages out to you guys. So you guys knew before the other emails hit what was going on, everything that was up to date, almost in real time, or whenever Dr. Schwartz heard, he would contact me and then I would push out to you guys. So I think that worked.
As I got updates from law enforcement, I was trying to update you through Chip.
Yeah.
So I think that worked out well to keep everyone informed.
Yeah, again, handled so well. And we're so grateful to the Auburn Hills Police Department for everything they do for our district, but especially that everything just went right. And as much as you don't want to see these types of things going on anywhere, let alone in our own district, know that everything was handled 100%, as flawlessly as it could have, is just affirming.
I think Oakland County Sheriff's Department had a hand in. the
They did.
apprehension of that
They did.
suspect
They were
as well.
on a consult
Yeah,
basis.
So it's been a good neighborhood partner as well for the other half of our district.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
Very true.
they were involved, from that perspective. So we do have a debriefing meeting with the chief of police tomorrow. So we're going to kind of go over the situation. We're going to look at what we thought went well, what we thought didn't go well, how we could improve communications between law enforcement and us. And it's difficult because you're in the middle of the situation. They're investigating, they're reviewing evidence, and so sometimes the communication, what you receive at the onset changes as they uncover new details and new information in their investigation. And that was the case here. And so, as part of our discussion tomorrow, as we debrief is there a way to, streamline that or improve upon what we know when as we go. And what can we report out and what can we not report out, because we don't want to compromise the investigation that's going on either. So there's information that they don't want to release because it could compromise what they're doing. So, when you get into these situations, it's delicate. It's, so. But we want to, again, we're going to debrief with them tomorrow and kind of go through that and look for how we can improve on that. Annette did a great job with, assisting us at that hour and helping us get communications out and getting drafts of things crafted and messaging. So Annette did a phenomenal job at.
And you guys were boots on the ground. I thought you guys said the hard stuff. Well done.
I will say to switch gears and kind of go back to the first day of school. I know a number of us went touring around and I thought the
It seems like
energy.
forever ago.
Yeah, I thought the energy was great on the first day. A lot of kids, a lot of excitement. I thought it's just a different vibe. I think it's that, post-COVID type of vibe, even though we're still kind of in COVID, but it everyone seemed to have smiling faces, renewed sense of purpose moving forward. So that was good to see it at all the schools that we visited. So just want to get that in.
Yeah, we had a pretty good crew that toured with us. I think we had 4 board members that went around that morning. So we had a good representation of the board that went into the buildings. And it's nice. It's nice for them to see the leadership team, and it's nice for the leadership team to see, all the shining faces and whether they're staff, students, back on that first day. It's nice. Always gives you a good feel. All right. Any other questions regarding any of the startup of school, the football game, any of the other events?
Just one quick question. So I have seen some people questioning what some of the security protocols are that we have generally in the district. And I know there's some that are public that people know about. And I know we just talked about this not too long ago, but it was over the summer when there maybe weren't as many people around. Excuse me. I'm just wondering if any sort of recap of some of the safety things in place might be reaffirming to our families in this district so that they understand, the things that we're able to share.
Sure.
Yeah. So that's a great idea. Sending out kind of a communication of summarizing all of our safety protocols. Yeah, that's a
Don't you
great,
have a communication that we used middle of last year?
we do.
A one pager,
We
yeah, it
do,
was
yeah.
real good.
And
Yeah,
it's all comprehensive of what all the, all the things we have in place,
physical
protocols.
security
Yeah.
and other things.
Yeah, we can certainly get that back out again. So that's a great suggestion.
Thanks.
Okay. Anything else? No? All right, then we'll move on to 2.2. 2.2 is our enrollment update. So Julie, if you can put up our enrollment, kind of where we are at. So these are our numbers as of last Wednesday, on the 31st. So they've already changed somewhat at this point, but this gives you an idea of where we're at with enrollments. What we've got here is to give you some of the acronyms. So you see under each school, you got Auburn, Deerfield, Graham, so on. And then you've got the total enrollment, and then the total enrollment is broken down between SOC. SOC is school of choice, and then of course resident. So you can see the breakdown of the numbers in each of our buildings. And again, this is current. The elementaries are essentially in the mid 300s to Graham, which is just inched over 400 students as our biggest elementary. The middle school is about 650, which is about where it left off with last year. High school is at a little over 1,000 at 1013. Gate has grown quite a bit. They're up about 50 students alone in that school. And DCI is actually up also about 50 students from where they were this week last year. So all in all, when we look at the total numbers within enrollment, it appears that we are, from a seated perspective, down about 50 to 52 students, again, from this week last year. That number changes, obviously, between now and the beginning of October. We are up in DCI 50 from where we were last year. I anticipate that 360 by the time October gets here will be probably about 100 kids higher than what it currently is. They always do a lot of recruitment and enrollment in September in that program. So I will see that grow. So all in all, we're doing pretty well in terms of holding our own from enrollment. When you look at districts around us, they're seeing a similar pattern. I mean, statewide, the state is down in students. So if we're in that 50, range down, I think we're doing okay from that perspective. When you look at the state of where we're at as a enrollment in the state and even locally. So these numbers are changing. I mean, we had more enrollments coming in today. For some reason, even though you start before Labor Day, people don't send their kids till after Labor Day. Regardless of how many memos you send out to say when the first day of school is, you still have some that don't send them until after Labor Day. So we had, Lita was busy today enrolling students coming in for their first day. So, again, this time of year, these numbers fluctuate. I'll continue to update you as we go on enrollment, as I typically do, particularly through the month of September, as we see these fluctuations. From a budgetary perspective, we certainly budgeted for where we're currently sitting with our enrollment. So this is not out of range of what we budgeted or where we established the budget this year. So that's a good thing. We do have a transitional kindergarten. You'll notice for the first time in all 4 elementaries. That was our goal, is to have TK running in every school. And this year we do. We have the numbers to substantiate. And they're nice lower numbers to start with. So it's nice to get that champion in each building. Questions? Nope. So an interesting point of statistics on this. When I compare our current numbers, if I take out DCI, which is the statewide virtual school, if I take those numbers out and take out the preschool, ECDC, and just look at our school buildings and their seated population, we're actually up 21 from where we were at fall count in October last year. So that just illustrates how this ebbs and flows through the month of September. So right now we're showing down, but we're up from where we were at fall count. So.
And we limited our school of choice for this year.
And we limited school of choice. We did not take in the number of students this year that we have in previous years. We only took in early elementary. We did not take in school of choice in upper elementary. We only took in grade 6 in middle school. We did not take school of choice in 7 and 8. So we decreased what we typically have taken in slot wise our previous several years. So that also contributes to why our numbers are showing at 50 down at this point in time. So that's a great.
Yeah.
Any other questions about enrollment or where we're at? Classroom sizes, our classroom, class sizes are fairly low when you compare to, again, other districts. Our elementary is trending quite well, particularly in lower elementary. 18 to 22 is our typical class size. And you won't find many districts where your lower L is 18 to 22 kids. You can go districts, one on our borders that starts with an R, where they will have up to 30 kids in a kindergarten class, or, 30 kids in a first grade class. Not here. We've got 18 to 22, and we've kept that purposely. Upper L is a little higher. They're 24 to 27 range. So again, low numbers comparatively to around us. And we look at that as, the lower class sizes certainly helps with that greater sense of individualized instruction in the classroom, greater individual attention in the classroom. We hope that translates to, better achievement, better test scores. But we're using that kind of as an intervention, the lower class sizes. It is considered an intervention. So.
Are there any split grade classes besides the gate ones?
No, we don't have splits that are scheduled. We have multi-age classes at gate. And that works well for that population because you have like-minded abilities. But no, we don't have splits that are scheduled in our other buildings.
Right.
That's another, we've
Yeah.
tried to avoid splits. So. Right. There are no other questions on enrollment. I will continue to update you as these numbers change. But so far, I think we're trending okay. Under 2.3, moving on to our next item, robotics. We've invited Allison back, actually. Another robotics presentation. And she's presenting tonight on the project she's working within the group. Now, I don't think we've underscored the work that Allison has done in the district to expand on robotics. She really has done a tremendous job with growing the robotics program within middle school, within GATE. We've got a lot of interest that is brewing now at that middle school level, whether it's at GATE, whether it's at AMS, and the opportunities and the challenges that are being developed for those students. So we've progressed just beyond the success of the high school, which still is internationally in the top 4, 5 every year.
We try.
And, continuing with that level of success and branching out into offering opportunities beneath the high school. And that those continue to grow under her leadership. So thank you for that.
And with that, thank you for your time this evening. My name is Allison. I'm head coach of the Robo Jackets. Tonight, I'd like to introduce you to the Robo Jackets Accessibility Project. This initiative is a work in progress, and I'm excited to share a brief overview thus far. We began this project in March of 2020 when we suddenly and unexpectedly found ourselves with time to spare. While reflecting upon our organization and our growth trajectory, we took time to note the discrepancies between the demographics of our organization and the demographics of our community. Investigating opportunities to direct future growth led us to researching how accessibility of extracurricular activities and barriers to participation relate to equity, diversity, and inclusion initiatives. My primary frame of reference is the world of competitive youth robotics, but by sharing this initiative beyond my bubble, I hope that I can invite outside feedback as we continue to develop a world-class competitive robotics program. My goal is to develop a set of proven best practices to support accessibility of competitive youth robotics and ideally broadly applicable to extracurricular activities as a whole. And I have been using the RoboJackets middle school program as the pilot for implementation. So I'm just giving you that tidbit as a frame of reference for my best practices are written with the 5th to 8th grade age group in mind at the moment. The first step is defining and measuring what we mean by accessibility. So we have currently defined accessibility as a state in which all students have equitable opportunity to discover their strengths and interests and explore in a welcoming and high quality environment that meets their needs. And our approach to assessing and measuring accessibility is by comparing to potential interests that we can develop through well-designed surveys, comparing as a percentage of district enrollment, and comparing relative to the demographics of the greater school community. So how do we make the RoboJackets accessible? We approached this the way we do most everything. We've kind of had a developing philosophy over the last 3 years that the real secret sauce to success is problem solving. And the first step to problem solving is breaking it down and identifying what your problems are. So we started looking at what are the barriers to participation. And we've broken those down into a number of small categories: awareness, registration, intimidation, affordability, transportation, communication, resource scarcity, and differentiation. Awareness was the first step. Moving on. This is just like going straight back to basics, but awareness is a huge barrier to accessibility. They can't participate in after-school activities if they don't know that that's an option. So we both want to address knowing that the opportunity exists by identifying all of our pathways to disseminate that information and be intentional about our selection of timelines to provide a reasonable window for registration and avoiding busy times of year when there's just a deluge of information incoming in general. Next, we went into assessing how we do registration. So the barriers that we identified there were knowing how and where to turn in a paper form and having a device to access to complete an electronic form, as well as just the general concept of first come, first served registration. We addressed the first two by providing both. I take the paper forms that come in and enter them into the electronic form so that I still have a complete database, but the students have options that meet whatever is the most familiar method for them. And we have made an intentional decision to avoid first come, first served registration because that creates a lot of inequity as far as being available to students whose parents have time to seek out those opportunities for them and make sure that they are first in line for all of them. So we have specifically avoided that. And if it comes to it, the intent was to do a lottery, but we fortunately haven't had to resort to that. And I don't think we will this year either. There we go. This is where we start getting into kind of some of the oddities in the world of competitive youth robotics, but intimidation was a significant factor. We did a lot of research by comparing our process to the process for teams both in Oakland County and around the world. We focused on Oakland County because that is most applicable to our demographics, but we found a whole host of barriers with regards to intimidation involving lengthy applications and written components. By written components, I mean questions like, why do you want to do robotics? Which, like, an 11-year-old might not want to know why they want to do robotics. It just sounds fun. Requirements for letters of recommendation, any sort of tryout or interviews, academic prerequisites, which I'll talk about because I know that can be a contentious one. Weeding tactics in general and requirements for parent involvement and volunteering. The written components of any sort of letters of recommendation, tryouts, and interviews. What we found is all of those were unintentionally becoming weeding tactics where they weren't identifying kids that could be great at competitive robotics. They were identifying kids that by virtue of their situation at home already had ample opportunities to recognize that they had an interest and develop skills that would serve them well in robotics. This is especially relevant when you consider that not all kids have access to Duplo or Lego or building toys that develop spatial relationships at home. So doing any sort of tryout that would test their building skills would only tell you what kids already had access to those toys, not what kids could benefit from it or become interested in it given the opportunity. We also went back and forth on the concept of academic prerequisites. And I will say there's certainly a time and a place for that, but when it comes to our entry-level programs, we didn't want to think of extracurricular activities as a reward for doing well in school. We wanted to think of extracurricular activities as a safe space for students to develop a sense of belonging that would then contribute to them improving their performance in school. So we intentionally at our entry-level programs, so we're talking like 5th to 7th grade especially, have decided that we do not want to tie team engagement to academics within reason. If there was a serious situation, I would, of course, be supportive of the teachers. I also want to say with regards to weeding tactics that I don't think that anyone is doing any of those is doing that intentionally or with any malice. And I also understand that it comes from a perspective of resource scarcity where you do the best with what you can. So for any other program or any other district implementing any of those, I pass no judgment. But with our current goals, we wanted to avoid those things so that we can promote inclusion of more different types of students. We also intentionally wanted to avoid requiring parent involvement or volunteering. We want parents to feel welcome and that they can be involved, but we recognize that a lot of families have 2 working parents or parents that are taking care of their elderly parents or have other responsibilities at home. And we don't want students to feel like their family can't contribute, so they can't play. The other component that we identified with intimidation is general concerns about not being experienced enough or not being selected or not having friends involved, or the opposite, having friends involved and not being grouped with them. And then just general unknowns with regards to competitive robotics in general. So we have worked on changing the language in all of our communication to emphasize not only is prior experience not required, but prior experience is not expected. Like we are set up to train skills and introduce, that's what we do and why we exist. You don't need to come in already knowing how to use tools. And then we also emphasize that especially the entry-level teams are not selective. They are all are welcome. There's nothing about the student in particular, aside from that they fill out a form. I've gone over the last 2 years, I've gone back and forth over a couple of different tactics for groupings, and I've settled on allowing requests to be grouped with certain students, but I do all of the grouping myself and I do not let them select their teams. I do want them to feel like they have a voice and that they have a safe group. But I don't want them to feel like if they come forward on their own, that they're just going to be, it's going to be like old school gym class where everyone's picking teams and there's one kid left out. And then a tactic that we have yet to implement, but we have at least brainstormed, is building awareness through demos in inclusive settings. So like lunchtime at school where everybody is naturally present because everybody eats lunch. Affordability, we are very fortunate that thus far we have been well supported by sponsorships and the Michigan Department of Education grants. So for the past 2 seasons, we have been able to, our middle school programs, to anybody that wishes to participate with no fees and no cost to them. The team has been able to handle uniforms, food and snacks at events, going to events. Any aspect that would cost money has been able to be absorbed by the RoboJackets. And we have again changed, adjusted our language in all of our communications to make sure that it's very clear that there is no cost to join and no costs throughout the season to team members. That's a question that a lot of kids ask right away. How much does it cost? And that's something that's coming from the kids, not even their parents. So that's an indicator to me that it's enough of a concern that it's something that a 12-year-old thinks of as one of the first things about an activity. So fortunately, we recognized that as a potential barrier, and it's not one that we have personally encountered yet. Transportation was a significant barrier. I have some stats later on in this presentation, but there was explosive growth. Oh, next slide. Oh, there we go. There was explosive growth between our first season that we ran a middle school team in 2019 and then last year. And that was many thanks to both Kate Martin at GATE for helping us secure space, and then for the office staff at both GATE and AMS for helping coordinate the logistics so that we can run programs directly after school in a dedicated classroom on site, where the only transportation that families then have to worry about is pickup after meetings. And then also thanks to the staff at the high school, where they have allowed us to host an event in district both last year and this year, which ensures that we can provide at least one competition opportunity to all of our team members without any significant travel involved. So that's a huge advantage. In addition to just bringing attention to the district and our program, it means that all of our kids involved have a place at home that puts minimal pressure on families to be able to do like the cool and fun capstone of the season. Communication is probably our personal biggest struggle. There's a host of barriers here. I did not list all of them because it would fill many pages, but the first one is literal communication barriers. Households with English as a second language tend to have much lower rates of participation in after-school activities, robotics included. And then communication pathways that safely and effectively reach all of the involved parties are a significant challenge. Keeping coaches and parents and students and school staff all in the loop and streamlining communication is, especially for something that's unfamiliar to many potential team members, is a challenge. We have been working on implementing tactics for dissemination of information that take advantage of existing structures. Many thanks to Annette for helping me manage that situation and making all the district communications available to us. And then my latest tactic that I've implemented this year is recruiting parent volunteers that are willing to collect and field questions, so that it's not just a single point with me trying to handle all of the information going out to hundreds of people. On resource scarcity, this is a barrier that is not a barrier to kids becoming involved, but it's a barrier to kids staying involved. And we have the environment conducive to productivity adequate supplies, attention, and space, and adequate opportunities for students. And this is actually a whole other presentation if I was to go into depth, but a number of years ago, actually probably the first year that I was running this team, I wrote a document that is metrics for the sustainability of a program that takes into account all of the different ratios involved. So the ratios of kids to kits and kids to teams and adults to kits and veterans to rookies on a team, and mathematically tracks what is a stable situation that makes it possible to maintain a high quality program where everybody is having their needs met. What was I going to say? Our teams are unusual in that we maintain fairly small teams for FTC, which is the middle school competitive robotics program in Michigan. It's legal to have up to 15 students per team, but for context, they're working on a robot that fits in an 18-inch cube. And I personally don't think it's practical to have 15 sets of hands working on a robot that could fit on this podium. So we maintain our teams at 4 to 8 students per team, 4 on the lower end for entry-level teams. And then as the students begin to gain more experience and specialize, it's more practical to have 7 or 8 on a team, because then you have students that are focusing on programming and focusing on CAD and focusing on build. And there is more capacity within an individual team for every student to still have as much of the experience as possible. We developed a number of routines kind of over the past 4 years that have made it, I don't know, last year was the first year that we opened up middle school registration, come one, come all, and I'll see what I get when I get it. And the routines that we've developed mostly over the course of day camp for communicating expectations and managing group dynamics helped maintain that environment. So we have a set of key phrases that I teach the coaches. Things like, one of the things I can ask the students is, if everybody did what you're doing right now, what would happen? And that's a key word for them to reflect on. Oh, if everybody did what I'm doing right now, we would all fall apart. I'm like, yes, perhaps you should do something different. And then we've been developing our project management strategies to help team members identify what they are able to do. This is actually stretching throughout the high school program. We've realized that one of our current weaknesses is that taking a goal and breaking that down into a set of tasks and then making a plan out of those tasks is actually a lot of steps that takes a lot of practice. So we've been developing templates that help the students take initiative and figure those things out. And when there are effective processes in place so that they can do work, they tend to want to. And so all of those are addressing the quality of the program that we hope students stay once they are engaged. The next barrier that we talked about is differentiation, and that being while our origin in competitive robotics is to be the top level competitive, we recognize that there are different types of offerings that match different expectations and different interests and different needs. So we've identified 4 rough categories of programs: exploratory, which is just kids that have never tried it and want to give it a go; recreational, which is I want to have fun while I'm doing this, and I want to have fun at meetings, and I want to have fun with my friends, and I want to be creative, but I don't want to be the top in the world, which is totally fine and reasonable, especially when they're 11. And then developmental and competitive, which start to reach into kind of the equivalent of like travel athletics, where they have made a choice that they want to be really good at this and decided to develop the skills. The primary elements being out of sync there would be time commitment and intensity and team goals. And so our mitigation for that is to offer a range of programs, especially in those formative years, and clearly communicate what the goals of a particular team are so that there's not a discrepancy there. The current status of the pilot, this upcoming season, we're currently in the midst of registration. We have a capacity for 80 students and 16 teams. That's a little bit of a lie. I could probably push it to 100 students and 20 teams. We have another initiative in progress in which we are designing and manufacturing a custom kit solution for our middle school teams that takes into account we don't want to have to emphasize like physical dexterity in building. We want to be able to emphasize the engineering design process. So I think it was in January when I realized that existing offerings don't do that. So we are designing and manufacturing our own kit right now. That's where the 80 comes from, but I could make more if I needed to. And then finally, what's next? I'm in the process of assessing our historical and current demographics and the efficacy of the tactics that I have just laid out. And I hope to continue to take input from both the educational community and my competitive youth robotics community to continue to build up these best practices. Finally, I have what is done really, because this is kind of a common theme across all of our teams. The kids at some point developed a habit of saying this is done. And they have since switched their language to this is as done as I could get it for now. Do you have any ideas on what I should do next? So this is as done as I could get it. And if anyone has any ideas or input on what I can do next, I am happy to take them.
Thank you, Allison. Pretty thorough. I don't think there's a variable you haven't thought of.
I try.
Seriously, you're amazing.
We try. So, oh, someone tabs open.
Fabulous job.
All right.
And we thank you again. We've seen the growth of the robotics throughout the district over the last several years, and it's that same level of quality that you instituted at the high school that we're seeing elsewhere. So you're leaving an indelible footprint everywhere you go.
Thank you.
So
Well, I think the things that you're seeing kids here, the values of equity, the values of inclusion, the processes of the engineering and building process, the processes of project management are things that transcend the robotics program. And while I'm sure they work very well for you, but the legacy that you're leaving these kids with is something. As somebody who's out there using those techniques, his daily job, the ability to learn those at 12 is really putting these kids on a good footing to be competitive in whatever they choose to do. So thank you for that.
I love that you're a female role model in STEM also. And I don't know what your numbers are for females that are in there, but I hope that those continue to grow too. Just because, that is one of those intimidation things for females. So
Yeah, one of the ways we addressed that is I did have a checkbox. Checkbox is it wasn't a written component, but there is a checkbox for a preference for an all-girls team. So that is an option they can select when they register. If that's something that reduces intimidation, then that's worthwhile.
like that.
thank you, Allison. Appreciate your presentation this evening. Informative. Thank you.
Bring us robots next time.
I'll update in December if Julie ever lets me talk again. I swear I go over my time limit
All right, so that completes the superintendent's report for this evening.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Schwartz. We'll move on to 3.0 board reports. Our treasurer's not here tonight, so we'll skip over that. Committee reports. I know we had a reinstatement committee meeting
So we had a-
earlier tonight.
Yeah, we had a student reinstatement committee meeting prior to this board meeting this evening, so.
Yes. All right, great. And then I know, Dr. Schwartz, you had mentioned getting the superintendent's evaluation committee
Oh, yeah.
together. So Mr. Lang will probably need to
Yeah,
work on.
we
maybe
need to
getting
get that
some
on the docket.
books.
to
Yep.
Create the rubrics for the board goals.
Yep.
So,
Great. 3.3, our new item here, student representative report. Not new, Servana, you're not new, but we've now added it to the agenda. So did you have anything you'd like to share this evening?
Yeah, I can talk about the mental health council.
Great.
So,
Oh, awesome.
I'll just give some background as to like why the council was formed. So last year in the spring, I basically surveyed the student body to kind of get an idea of what the most pressing and relevant issues are to them. And I saw like a common theme of mental health, specifically like the advertising, like the access to those resources, because they exist in the high school, but students just aren't aware that they're there. And so there are a lot of ways to tackle the issue. So I created a council at the school. Basically, right now we have about 15 kids, and our plan is to basically devise short-term and long-term solutions. Short-term solutions being ones that we can do by ourselves right now, and long-term ones being like solutions that might involve the board and the board's guidance. And so we had one meeting last year. We came up with a list of short-term and long-term solutions, and so far we haven't met because school just started. We're still getting situated and stuff. But me and Ms. Blakemore are working together to create a meeting for that and kind of structure the council so that all students can join and give their input. And so we're kind of creating like a hierarchy of as we speak, like you know, who like runs what. And so it is a work in progress, but we do plan to meet in the next week or two. And so we'll just see where it goes from there. I'll keep you guys updated. But yeah, we do have about 15 kids that are interested in the council so far.
That's great.
And also 2 lists of solutions. So, yeah.
That's fabulous.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking on that work.
Yeah, I think we look forward to the recommendations that come out of that committee as well too. So we hope you share those down the road as you get things more formalized. Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. All right, with that concludes 3.0. Move on to 4.0, which is the citizens' request to address the board. This is time for public participation in our meeting. This is a one-way communication, and the board and or administrative staff will follow up with you as needed on any questions that you may present to us as you're speaking. We ask that each statement be limited to 3 minutes and that each community member gets one turn only to make comments. As always, I will start with those that are here in the room. Anyone in the room would like to make public comment? Stuma, come on up.
I'm Andrea Yamarino. I have a sophomore at the high school, and I know it's been said, but I want to reiterate. I thank you guys for everything that you did at the football game. I was aware that there was something going on, but I didn't know the severity of it. The transparency of the administration led to my child feeling safer in the long run, because we had a long conversation about it after the fact, and he felt better about the practices that are happening at the high school after seeing the activities or not seeing the activities that happened and knowing how difficult it was. So I appreciate that. I appreciate this. They had the presentations today for their safety. They're running the drill tomorrow. That coincides coincidentally, and I appreciate the fact of that. And I thank you for everything that you guys are doing, and all the teachers for a great welcome back.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else in the room this evening that would like to speak? Seeing no movement, we'll move to our community friends that are with us virtually on Zoom. As you know, at the bottom of your screen, there is a reactions button, or it might be at the top of your screen. Click on that button. There is a raised hands feature. If you want to click on that, we'll recognize you. If for some reason you're having trouble with that, please feel free to come on camera and kind of wave your arms, and we'll get you recognized. So if anyone on Zoom this evening that would like to make a public comment, please click on the raise hands feature. All right, Miss Kelly, if you could call off the names.
Okay, Carrie, I'm sorry, Lopicolo? Is that close? I think you're muted.
Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry, it's been a while since I've attended a Zoom, so thank you for your patience. I just wanted to, Low Piccolo is fine, or Carrie. I just wanted to just give everybody props for I'm a new family and coming all the way from Novi. And I know I've communicated with some of you, but just wanted to pass along my gratitude and appreciation and impressiveness for everything my son and I have experienced, and my family, my husband, in this new transition to Avondale. As communicating with some new Avondale friends, we've just been overly impressed so far and look forward to continuing to partner with your district. And I can provide more details later, but I don't want to take up too much time. So thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
We appreciate the comments.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Anybody else this evening? Again, the reactions button, either at the bottom or top of your screen, there's a raise hand button. If for some reason that's not working, please feel free to just come on screen and kind of wave your arms and we'll recognize you. Would anyone else this evening like to make a public comment? Again, reactions button, raise hand button. All right, going once. Going twice. Thank you very much. I'll go ahead and close citizens' request to address the board. Thank you very much for the input. Appreciate that. We'll now move on to agenda item 5.0. So I will entertain a motion to go into closed session for the purposes of student discipline A and B.
I'll make a motion to move into closed session for the purposes of student discipline.
And I will second that thing.
Moved by Mr. Lang, seconded that thing by Ms. Brault. Any discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Lang,
Aye.
Ms. Brault,
Yes.
Ms. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Tischer is an aye. The motion carries. For those of you that are with us in the room and that are online virtually, this could take up to an hour or so. So you're more than welcome to hang out. Go grab a cup of decaf coffee and we'll be back, hopefully within an hour or so. Thanks. We'll stand adjourned at 8:13.
Sarge, my 12-year-old gelding, is thrashing around out in the pasture.
All right, and we're back in session at 9:18. Thank you for staying with us this evening. We'll now move on to 6.0, which is our action items. Dr. Schwartz.
All right, so our action items for this evening, we have under 6.1, our consent agenda. That's the consideration of our board meeting minutes from our regular meeting of August 16th, 2022. I recommend the Board of Education approve the consent agenda or those board meeting minutes as presented.
So moved.
Support.
Moved by Ms. Brault, seconded by Mr. Lang. Discussion. Hearing none, Ms. Brault.
Yes.
Mr. Lang.
Aye.
Ms. Davis. Mr. Tischer is an aye. The motion carries.
Righty, moving on to 6.2, non-consent items. Under 6.2A, student A discipline. I recommend the Board of Education approve the long-term suspension of student A from the Avondale School District for the first semester of the school year with enrollment in DCI current through the end of the 2022-23 school year. Reinstatement is conditional on successful completion of the year academically and follow through with the youth assistance referral and record of successful counseling.
So moved.
Support.
Moved by Ms. Brault, seconded by Ms. Davis. Discussion. Hearing none, Ms. Brault.
Yes.
Ms. Davis.
Yes.
Mr. Lang.
Aye.
Mr. Tischer is an aye. The motion carries.
Under 6.2B, student B discipline. I recommend that the Board of Education approve the long-term suspension for student B from the Avondale School District for the first semester of the school year with enrollment in DCI current through the end of the 22-23 school year. Reinstatement is conditional on successful completion of the year academically and follow through with youth assistance referral and record of successful counseling.
I'll move it.
Support.
Moved by Ms. Davis, seconded by Mr. Lang. Discussion on this one. Hearing none. Ms. Davis.
Yes.
Mr. Lang.
Aye.
Ms. Brault.
Yes.
Mr. Tischer is an aye. The motion carries.
All right, moving on to 6.2C, accepting resignations. I recommend the Board of Education accept the voluntary resignations of Sam Castillo, science teacher at Avondale Middle School, effective August 12th, 2022. Jacqueline Viole, resource room teacher, Avondale High School, effective August 12th, 2022. Sadie Schwark, share time teacher at St. John Fraser, effective August 12th, 2022. Michael Nelson, shared time teacher, Lutheran High School Northwest, effective August 12th, 2022. Jonathan Sharon, resource room, Avondale Middle School, effective August 26th, 2022. And Morgan Tilley, first grade teacher, Deerfield Elementary, effective September 1st, 2022.
I'll move.
Support.
Moved by Ms. Brault, seconded by Ms. Davis. Discussion.
I'm bummed to hear about Mr. Castillo. My kids
Yes.
really loved him.
Mine too.
Ms. Heidi, do you have any background you can share on where these teachers are going, just other districts, or? It's a question
I would-
I ask every time.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Our special education teachers were seeking large increases, I
Sure.
would say.
Okay.
And many districts with limited experience teachers are coming in at the top salary, making close to 80,000. And one of the other resignations was simply seeking a placement much closer to her home.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Ooh.
Yeah, I know. Ms. Brault,
Yes.
Ms. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Lang,
Aye.
Mr. Tischer is an aye. The motion carries.
Okay, under 6.2D, employment of new staff. I recommend the Board of Education approve the hiring of Veronica Klausmeyer, shared time teacher at Lutheran High North, effective August 15th, 2022. Erica Barnowski, shared time teacher at Oakland Christian, effective August 15th, 2022. Robin Mueller, shared time teacher at Trinity Utica, effective August 15th, 2022. Tyler Prisby, shared time teacher at Lutheran High Northwest, effective August 15th, 2022. Michelle Manzo, shared time teacher, Emmanuel Lutheran, effective August 15th, 2022. Megan Mulvihill, second grade teacher, Auburn Elementary, effective August 17th, 2022. Shannon Neerman, third grade teacher at Gate Magnet School, effective August 24th, 2022. Lucienne Ferrugia, social worker at Auburn Elementary, effective August 24th, 2022. Kimberly Valentine, resource room, Woodland Elementary, effective August 29th, 2022. Ana Andre Chavez, Spanish teacher, Avondale High School, effective August 29th, 2022. Savannah Drain, science teacher, Avondale Middle School, effective August 30th, 2022. Danielle Vernon Carlton, resource room, Auburn Elementary, effective August 30th, 2022. And Matthew Lucas, resource room, Avondale High School, effective August 30th, 2022.
I'll move it.
Support.
Moved by Mr. Lang, seconded by Ms. Davis. I would like to say one of the teachers we hired, his father actually taught in the district for many, many years. So it's good to see kind of keeping it in the family with Miss Drain joining us. So.
I would just, I'm interested with Mrs. Hyde, if you could tell us if there's any other vacancies or how things are going, and also kudos, that's an impressive list.
Thank you. I have to credit my department because they're working hard. As far as, we do have a Spanish vacancy still at the high school, but we have a candidate that will be interviewed tomorrow that is seeking to come to us from one of our share time schools and would rather work for a public school. So we're hopeful that we can fill both of our Spanish positions in that way. The rest of our positions are pretty much special ed positions. We do have 3 from the middle school that were just sent to me this evening that they have bachelor's degrees at the present time, but I will be seeking permits for them tomorrow to serve as a special education resource room teacher. And the criteria for that is simply that they need to enroll in a master's program to pursue a special education endorsement and take 6 credits within the next year. So they're all willing to do that. So I expect to be able to fill those, but we're working hard. We also have 2 national organizations that are contracting out as we strive to fill our remaining special ed positions.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Lang,
Aye.
Ms. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Brault,
Yes.
Mr. Tishers and I, the motion carries.
All right, under 6.2E, adopt National Suicide Prevention Proclamation. And we were to have a representative here this evening. She may have already been here and gone. Suzanne Weinert was to join us from the Oakland Community Health Network. She was here to, it's actually the Oakland Community Health Network that has provided these proclamations for the boards of education in Oakland County for consideration. So that proclamation reads, and again, this is the National Suicide Prevention Proclamation. So it is National Suicide Month, month of September. Whereas September is known as National Suicide Prevention Month and is intended to help raise awareness surrounding suicide prevention resources available in the community. And whereas World Suicide Prevention Day is observed each year on September 10th. And whereas suicidal thoughts can affect anyone regardless of age, gender, race, orientation, income level, religion, or background. And whereas according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, 45,979 people died by suicide in the United States in 2020. That's 1 death for every 11 minutes. And according to the CDC, 12.2 million adults across the US seriously thought about suicide. 3.2 million adults made a suicide plan. 1.2 million adults attempted suicide. And according to the 2020 Michigan Suicide Prevention Commission annual report, 1,389 people in the state died by suicide during the COVID-19 pandemic, with 1,099 of those deaths relating to men. And every year, thousands of individuals die by suicide, leaving behind friends and family members to navigate the tragedy of loss. Often feelings of shame and stigma prevent them from talking openly. And whereas 988 have been designated as the new 3-digit dialing code that will route callers to the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is now active across the United States. And whereas the National Action Alliance for Suicide Prevention is using hashtag Be There to educate social media followers about the many actions one can take to support a person who is struggling. And whereas Oakland Community Health Network has been active and engaged, a member of the Oakland County Suicide Prevention Task Force since 2011. And whereas the OCHN is committed to being a zero suicide organization and cultivating a network of providers who are engaged in the zero suicide philosophy. Now therefore be it resolved that Oakland Community Health Network hereby recognizes September 2022 as National Suicide Prevention Month. OCHN calls upon our citizens, our government agencies, public and private institutions, businesses, and schools to recommit our state to increasing awareness and understanding of suicide prevention and the need for appropriate and accessible services to assist individuals in crisis. So with that, I recommend that the Board of Education adopt the Oakland County Community Health Network National Suicide Prevention Month proclamation, September 2022, as presented.
I'll move that.
Support.
Moved by Mr. Lang, seconded by Ms. Davis. Discussion.
Just, many of you know that my 18-year-old stepson took his own life a few years back. It's a very real thing. I want to thank the Oakland Community Health Network, as well as the other organizations that are working now to make suicide a topic that is able to be discussed across the dinner table and able to be discussed more openly and things of that nature. I think that it's one of those things that when we talk about can affect any age, gender, race, orientation, income level, religion. It behooves all of us to have that discussion with our children, even if we don't think they're at risk. With that, I'll step down off my soapbox.
No, thank you, Mr. Lang, for sharing.
Yeah, I love that the high school in Saravana are working on this project for mental health.
Mhm.
It's very important. And anybody who's struggling with mental health, definitely, there's people here for you. There's resources in our district. And check in on your people too,
Any other discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Lang,
Aye.
Ms. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Brault,
Yes.
and Mr. Tischer is an aye. The motion carries.
All right, we have another proclamation from the Oakland Community Health Network. And that is under 6.2F, adopting the National Recovery Month proclamation. And it is National Recovery Month, also the month of September. So whereas according to the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration in 2020, 40.3 million people aged 12 or older had a substance use disorder in the last year, including 28.3 million who had an alcohol use disorder, 18.4 million who had an illicit drug use disorder, and 6.5 million people who had both alcohol use disorder and an illicit drug use disorder. And whereas according to SAMHSA in 2020, 22.2% of Americans, or 61.6 million people, 12 years or older, were binge alcohol users in the past month. The percentage was highest among young adults aged 18 to 25. And whereas according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, nearly 92,000 overdose deaths occurred in the United States in 2020, which was a 31% increase from 2019. And whereas substance use recovery is important for individual well-being and vitality, as well as for families, friends, communities, and businesses. And whereas OCHN continues to educate and raise awareness of the risks and potential harm associated with prescription drug misuse. And whereas stigma and stereotypes associated with substance use disorders often keep people from seeking treatment that can improve their quality of life. And whereas substance abuse disorders occur when the recurrent use of alcohol and/or other drugs cause clinically or functionally significant impairment, such as health problems, disability, and failure to meet major responsibilities at work, school, or home. And whereas substance use disorder recovery is a journey of healing and transformation, enabling people to live in a community of their choice while striving to achieve his or her full potential. And whereas substance use disorder recovery benefits individuals with substance use disorders by focusing on their abilities to live, work, learn, and fully participate and contribute to society, and also enriches the community culture. And now therefore be it resolved that the Oakland Community Health Network hereby recognize September 2022 as National Recovery Month. OCHN calls upon our citizens, government agencies, public and private institutions, businesses, and schools to recommit our state to increasing awareness and understanding of substance use and the need for appropriate and accessible services to promote recovery. So with that, I recommend that the Board of Education adopt the Oakland County Health Network National Recovery Month proclamation for September 2022 as was presented.
I'll move it.
Support.
Moved by Mr. Tischer, seconded by Ms. Davis. Discussion on this one. I think the numbers speak for itself.
Yeah,
You
it's
just
staggering.
read through. Yep. Absolutely. All right. I vote yes. Ms. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Brault,
Yes.
Mr. Lang,
Aye.
and the motion carries.
Those are all the action items we have for this evening.
Great. Moving on to 7.0 discussion items. Dr. Schwartz.
Yeah, so we have a couple of discussion items on the agenda this evening, and that the first one is coming back to the conversation about the website, about marketing. We've taken the conversations that we've had over the last couple of board meetings as the topic has come up about improvements to the website, improvements to messaging and how we target individuals for information and kind of improving upon that. Annette and I met with Ignite, who are our website folks. They help to manage our website. They help to also provide advice for marketing and tools for marketing and so on. Some of the things that we have talked about is in terms of planning is, again, we've heard loud and clear about now that the pandemic is over, it's time to remove the stock photos from the website and get pictures of our kids on there now that we're not all wearing masks and things of that nature. So we are collecting those pictures. I know Annette has been around snapping lots of pictures to put on the website. We're also looking at capturing some drone footage of our buildings so that when somebody logs in, particularly to a school link on there, it opens to, a drone footage of the school, which gives a nice, aerial view. So we're looking on, how to, I'll say, modernize the photos and the animation that is on the website. We're also looking at creating links for spiritware so folks can purchase Avondale wear. So there'll be a public link, there'll be a Teams link and a club link for folks to get kind of personalized Avondale gear through the website. We're also looking at a mobile app for our phones where you can access information more clearly and more at ease to find information. So looking at a mobile app that we're going to create with that. We're looking at customer service from, how to design sort of a customer service PD around, what kind of culture do we want to build, looking at, who we are, what's important to us, and that being kind of the springboard of conversation around the district about how we live out who we are and what's important to us. So there's going to be some work in terms of that whole customer service piece of things, particularly from a PD perspective. We're looking at perhaps a search our site feature, which is like a keyword search. So folks can again find information faster and easier with less clicks through a keyword search function. Alerts, setting up alerts for folks to get alerted on things of their choice. Notify me when, there's specific types of concerts, or notify me when there's specific types of athletic events, or that kind of thing. So looking at some alert type functions and activate those. Video creations on the website where we have students, parents, community providing testimonials, alumni, perhaps, with testimonials on the website. Again, really from a marketing perspective, where we're personalizing experiences in Avondale and, what's important about Avondale? Why did people choose Avondale? What has that experience brought to them? Perhaps differently from a district they've been prior to us. We're looking at how to manage some building controls. Because we don't want too many cooks in the kitchen when it comes to the website. Otherwise, you go on there and it looks like a food. So, we're establishing what are those particular controls that the buildings can go on and edit and add versus what should the district have ownership of on the website. So we're looking at that. We're also looking at building out fine arts links, athletic links, and a careers link, because now career education has become one of our important initiatives in the district. So in building that out. So and also getting back reports on statistics, usage data, how long people have been on the website, when they visit, where are they going, and starting to track some of that data that we just haven't done yet. So that's kind of a snapshot in terms of some of the things that we've been meeting on. We also want to, and I think Ms. Davis, you had this suggestion about garnering users of the website, our parents, community and such, to provide us feedback on what's good, what works well, and what doesn't. It helps us to get that feedback from the user perspective. So we're looking at that too. And Annette, you probably have other things.
I just wanted to mention a couple of things. First of all, Dr. Schwartz, you forgot to mention the coolest person on our little committee was Dan, who brings that great age perspective. And he's really a wealth of information about stuff. He really makes us a lot. But something I wanted to kind of hit on is that we continue to talk about asking the community about our branding and asking the staff about our branding. The answers always come back the same. We're a close-knit family. We're generational. Where all this stuff always comes back the same. So something that we talked to them about was really pursuing this idea of a shared mindset and culture. So to actually go through some trainings with our staff and with our families, because you can say all you want that we're close knit, but when somebody calls the main office and they don't have a great experience for whatever reason, because those ladies are working like crazy and they've got a million things going on, for whatever reason, the person calls the office and they're put off by what they're hearing. That whole thing about what a close-knit group we are goes out the window, because she goes to the bus stop and tells everybody how rude so-and-so was. So we really thought we kind of needed to take a step back and talk about a shared mindset and a shared culture and involve people in creating not a vision, not a mission, but more like culture statements. And that would actually filter over into the people that we hire as well. So it'd really be across the board, where it's more like, this is how we want to be perceived. How can we get you to act like that, even when you're overwhelmed and stressed out? So, or even if you're a staff member that's unhappy about something, maybe it's something in your own life, but you're still maybe occasionally being negative about stuff that's going on. So we can say all we want about what a great group we are, and we are a great group. But those things come up, and that's what people remember. So they're gonna help us do that, do some control groups, maybe walk through some exercises about how to create those shared mindset culture statements. And then another thing that I wanted to mention in terms of the search thing, we're looking at with their suggestion is not necessarily to go with a word search, but to more like go with a document center. Because that's really what people will be coming to the website for. I mean, our people, our families. Where's the medical slip? Where's the sports physical? Whatever. So Dan had some thoughts about that I thought were really good and how it could be formatted to be really simple. So that's all I wanted to add. Do you think of anything?
No, I did. What they do is they essentially tag words to different pages and documents. And then over time, that database of words will slowly build up. And the way it would work was when you go to that search field, essentially the most searched tag words would show up first. So that people, if they're looking for something that's pretty common, it'll just kind of pop up there at the top as a suggested item, and then they could click on it and it would load that document or page. So, and then in regards to the mobile website, I know that was the concern, which the app portion was brought up.
Yeah.
They were going to look at perhaps building more of a mobile based website, because right now, depending on what device you pull it up from, it's formatted completely differently. It tries to essentially shrink it down to a mobile format. So they're looking at maybe getting an actual m.avondaleschools.org type of a website where it will be specifically formatted for mobile, and then you're not going to have that issue from device to device. So.
Good.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that's a start. I mean, and that's trying to capture kind of what the conversation has been around the table here over the last, couple of board meetings come up. So, I think it's the next step in terms of evolving what we have.
Just accessibility of those documents in case we ever ADA, are we remediating those documents?
They are,
Yeah.
they are supposed to be creating that ability.
Okay,
So
it's called we call it in my line 508 remediation.
Yeah, they scan every document that gets uploaded through their system to verify that it's ADA compliant.
Okay,
And then we were asking them about translation ability and adding that option to the language site.
yeah.
Go down to the bottom and just hit translate to this language.
Oh, good. Okay.
That was something else that.
It's not always perfect, but at least it's
No.
something to start.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Right. Any other questions on that? So we'll update you as we go. Proceed on that. So. The other item I have under discussion is board meetings in buildings. So. October, we start our tour of buildings. So the second board meeting of every month, starting next month, will be in the buildings. Now, in the past, when we were in buildings, we had a presentation that was often given by the school about some part of the strategic plan that they were working on in their buildings. And it largely was around project-based learning and, other types of initiatives that were embedded in the strategic plan. Our thoughts were, as we resume going back to buildings, because now we haven't been in buildings in a couple of years because of COVID, that we would, instead of doing the school presentations in the meeting, what we would do is have what we call ghost walks that would happen prior to the board meeting. So like from 6:30 to 7, we would invite the leadership team to tour the school. Because oftentimes we go to the school and you only see the room we meet in, that being the media center or the cafeteria, or whatever space that we're having the meeting in, but you really don't spend time in the building. So the thought here was to get folks out into the hallways, get them into classrooms where you can see student work. And you can see highlights of evidence of the board goals that we're working on, evidence of the strategic plan initiatives. That way you can see it kind of more in life in the building versus, through a presentation, get you out to see the building and draw that connection to what's going on in that building. So that's kind of the gist of our thoughts. I don't know if there's something in particular that you would like to see in the buildings as we go building the building on that board tour through the year. Because we're open to any suggestions or any wants that you have that you'd like to see in particular when you're at the buildings. That's something that the ghost walk is something that we thought would be a nice change up to get you to see more of the building, more of what's happening, more of the embeddedness of the board goals, the strategic plan in the classrooms.
I don't know if we want to call it a ghost walk. I think we need to come up with a little bit
Isn't
better
that-
term than a ghost.
It's, what do you call
Protocols around it. It's just what it's called. Probably some other names for it, but yeah, it's.
boardwalk? That's a board.
Anyway, we can figure that out. It's just,
Can workshop that.
It's non-disruptive to the classroom environment because there are no kids or teachers in the rooms, but you get to see
right.
all their work.
Right.
You have them leave it out, and instead of, putting everything away that day, they just leave it out. But yeah, you can really see quite a bit from what's just left out on desks and hanging on walls.
Nice.
I like it. Let's try it.
Yeah.
Boardwalk.
Typically, have
Yeah,
groups
boardwalk.
do is take pictures of things and then send them to me. And then I send them out to the building as a thank you on a slideshow. So they can see all the pictures of the things that we saw when we were in their building and thank them. And it's all about just evidence of things that are going on and how, and just that we were there and we appreciate the work that they're doing.
I think maybe towards of some of the new curriculum we just passed, like, the rocket class at the middle school would be good to see once they get that up and running, and some of the other ones of the recent curriculums we just approved, that might be good. Good, just throwing that out there to tour and see.
Yep.
Because oftentimes
Like that.
we approve it here and then
No, you don't see it.
we might hear about it, right? But we don't see it, right? So.
That's a great suggestion.
Yeah, I think the only downfall to it is, these were often opportunities to bring in a handful of the kiddos and their parents and, have them in front of the board. And,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There was often a demonstration went along with the project-based learning and things of that nature. And, a lot of the parents, their chance to dust off the cameras.
I think we
Does it
can still
either
do
work?
both
Yeah.
though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we can still do both. Because I agree with you, Mr. Lang. I think I like seeing that as well too. When they come in maybe we make it a little shorter presentation, but they can still, because there might be more than one thing at one school, so then we can.
Maybe they could be docents.
Those kids could be docents.
Since we're going on ghost walks. Okay, great.
I like
Let's
that.
talk if they're there.
Their leadership.
Well, one of the other components that we did is we had they had a recognition piece of the meeting. So
Right.
Yeah.
we could perhaps include that where there's recognition of students for, some initiative or some club or something that students are doing or working on.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
receive recognition of that and highlight that. So that could be something that we could maintain or keep in there.
That way it's not any additional work on our staff to
Right,
make a
to make a
presentation and
slideshow.
That's fine.
dog and pony, if you will, and,
Dr. Shore, so we haven't really been doing these since Rita and I have been on the board, so we've done the listening tours to some extent.
Yep.
Does this combine listening tour or is that a whole separate? Okay.
Listening, the whole listening,
Different.
thing is different.
Yeah.
And we'll be getting back into that shortly as
Yeah.
well.
Okay, cool.
So that's different from this. This is just board.
I thought so. I just, yeah.
The other ones involve staff and
Yeah.
the board
Safe
meeting
space.
with staff. Yeah, yeah. So that's
Okay.
different.
Just checking.
This is just for board meetings.
so
I
that
wasn't-
media room on chairs that are about this tall.
Yeah.
Makes the board meetings go much quicker.
Yeah.
That might be okay for some of us.
And I talked with Dr. Schwartz that we would, if we do these before the board meetings, these tours, boardwalks, whatever we're gonna call them, that we will post that and let the public know that we are going
Sure.
as a group and going around.
Yeah.
Just to
So
be
if
on the
there's
safe side.
Individuals that want to tag along,
Sure, I want to meet your board
Yep.
members, sure.
meet your board
Yep.
members, see
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
classrooms. Yeah,
So,
so it'd be open. So,
Like it.
Wonderful. Yeah.
all right.
all right.
And we will go with that. If you think of anything else that you'd like to see on there, just shoot me an email or what have you. We'll get started with those then. I think the first one is October 20th.
Sure.
And we're at Woodland first, so that'll be our first school.
Great.
All right. Under 8.0, under future meetings, September 20th is our next meeting here, followed by October 4th.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Schwartz. And last but not least, board comments. Who would like to kick us off?
I'll start
Davis.
short.
Sure.
It's really small, but I'm extra excited to see our kiddos' faces on the website. I just can't wait to pull it up for something and it be our Avondale kids on there. Nothing against stock photos, but just leave that there. This new year has come with a few bumps and they are being handled with care. Not but and they are being handled with care. I need the community to know that they should not overshadow the amazing things that are happening within the community. I think this has been a really great start to a school year after all everyone has been through. And I am excited to see the things that are coming. And everyone have a good evening.
Thanks. I'd like to go.
Whatever.
Go ahead.
Okay. So well said, Ms. Davis. I agree completely. And it was really great going and touring the different schools and just seeing all the positivity out there and just everything that is possible. I wanted to thank Allison for the presentation on the Robo Jackets. It's some really phenomenal work that's been done. And her data mind is like Moneyball, but for robotics, if you guys have seen the movie. So I just think that that's fantastic. And we definitely have, you know, an awesome person in her leading that. So thank you for that. What a great way to channel creativity and skills of our students too. And I am so excited about what our students are doing with mental health. That's just so important. And I can't wait to learn more about that. And it was so nice hearing Saravana be able to tell us a little bit more and having him on the agenda. So thank you for making that possible. And just hoping that we can continue moving forward with positivity for the school year. And like Ms. Davis said, get rid of those bumps. So thank you all.
Mr. Lang.
I echo my colleagues' comments. Again, the robotics program and its growth is just phenomenal. And I think that there are learnings that Allison has that I wish that she could impart on other programs that we have here. You know, whether that's our fine arts program and how to make inclusion and diversity part of that. Not that we don't. I don't want to imply that at all, but
She has a gift.
but she has a gift for looking in every corner and sweeping out every corner to make sure that every corner is hit. So, and I think that's wonderful. You know, we dodged a bullet. Let's talk about it for what it is at the beginning of the school year here at the football game. And no pun intended. I will again, there are things that are being done at districts throughout the state. I expect that as we go to our conference later on in October, that we will be talking to some of our partner districts about security measures that are being taken throughout the state. That again, I think that with a healthy budget, with the demographics that we share, with our relative location in Oakland County, this was a wake-up call for us. And I think that we need to take a look at it as a wake-up call and make sure that we are doing that debrief and that we are identifying what our best practices and are there gaps and are there things that we need to get ahead of. You know, and as we continue to have incidents throughout our schools, even just with students, I think we need to constantly be vigilant to make sure that our schools are safe places for our students as well as our staff and any community members that visit. We did a wonderful job this time and we dodged an incident, so. With that, everyone have a safe evening.
Thank you, Mr. Lang. Well said. I echo my colleagues' comments, for sure. So I don't really have a lot more to add. Scully, thank you for returning our flags or finding new ones or
Those are new.
or buying us some new ones. Thank you.
Taller flag.
They're taller flags, but
Yeah.
you know.
We bought the
glad-
9-foot version.
The 9-foot version. Okay, that's good. Glad we have those back. So thank you. Appreciate that.
Those are permanent. They won't leave this building.
They won't leave the building.
No.
They're probably a good thing. So now I'm gonna talk about blessings in the backpack. So we are starting our first pack of the new year starting tomorrow. So we'll be packing tomorrow. There is a sign up genius. So if you're interested in coming to pack up for blessings in the backpack, we're doing that tomorrow. You'll be seeing the trailer out, making deliveries in the morning, later in the week. So it's a brand new spiffy new trailer that we're gonna make all the deliveries. So we're very excited about that, working through some logistics things there, but if you're interested in volunteering or you have a son or daughter with National Junior Honor Society or National Honor Society that need volunteer hours, please feel free to go on our Facebook page, Blessings in the Backpack Avondale, and there's that sign up genius there. Or you can contact myself or my wife Janelle Tischer, and we're happy to help you out with that. But with that, that's really all I have tonight. I'll go ahead and call the meeting at 9:59. Thank you all for joining us this evening and have a safe rest of the week. We're adjourned.